quote tweets, "Y'all really bought that shit-butt-ass comic book, I'm crying. It's crazy people think this guy is anything but a libertarian scam artist. This is some of the worst paneling and framing I've ever seen. They break the 180-degree rule twice on the same page. How do you pull that off? The 180-degree rule states that you keep the camera on one side of the characters. Imagine a line through the center of the characters and do not cross the line. The 180-degree rule is meant to help viewers understand where things are in the scene. They trying hard to defend this, talking about, bro, it's a perspective switch. Crazy how the guy that's only known for being a racist pick-me and complaining about woke Marvel and DC probably made the worst indie comic of all time. Y'all donated money to the guy that can't even choreograph a fight scene well in a comic book. Missing a whole-ass clash panel. Character positions are inconsistent, which interrupts panel flow, no sense of movement, and everything looks still. Remember, this guy was going off on how crap other artists were, from people in the major leagues to small indie artists, and flaunting that he was going to be the next big thing. Alan Moore was right. If you want to get good at comics, you just have to find the most dogshit comics you can get hands on. This feels like a fake comic you would see a kid read in some low-budget Hallmark movie. At least I'll always be a better comic creator than these idiots. This was the comic that was going to destroy DC and Marvel, by the way. I know some 10-year-olds who can make better paneling than this shit. So glad Isom sucks donkey balls so I can make fun of it. You want me to show y'all how to make one correctly? Not surprised they keep complaining about comics are dead when the story and art they writing feels generic and lacking in choreography. Eric needs to improve sooner, otherwise it'd be a fever dream to have long-term success. This is still the worst fight scene in comic history. He has to talk shit on everyone else in order to try and build himself up because he knows deep down he's a talentless hack. None of these grifters are any good. All their creative endeavors fall flat on their face and are quickly forgotten.
You had one job.
Here is that find out why did Isom quit. Down here, the featuring the first appearances of, and it shows us these names that we're going to be introduced to. Well, as you can probably see, I am a big fan of Eric July. This looks awesome. I think I got. I don't remember whichever cover there was. I don't know a damn thing about this world. Sees them, still don't. And again, I was willing to give number 1 a pass because maybe there's some more world building in future issues. But in 2, we don't get any world building of that sort. We don't know where these superheroes have come from. They're called XSEPs in this world. We don't know where the XSEPs have come from. We don't know really how the police view them, and we also don't really know how society at large feels about them. I support the efforts, but I need to know as a normie. I need to know this character. I need to be able to follow his story much more than I am. I was willing to give it a pass, hoping that maybe issue 2 would clear up some of these things. Issue 2 doesn't. So that was a little bit disappointing for me. But here it says in the front, find out why did Isom quit. I was expecting a bit more of an emotional story. It really only lasts a few pages. We do get introduced to even more characters, which I'm not a fan of, because we need to tell the main character's story first, and then we can introduce better people. Isom stumbles across I'm assuming, Comic-Con. This is why Isom hung up the cape, because this guy Shadron makes a beeline for the girl he just saved, who's dressed up in costume. Shadron's at a full dash towards this girl, grabs her by the hair, and it's pretty horrible. Avery punches him in the back. Well, he falls forward on top of the girl and hurts her.
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
When I was a kid, it was too much supper. Now it's comic books.
I'll burn them tomorrow.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying? Fear or the frightened?
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
So tonight, I'm not going to show you why there ought to be laws against anything. It's not on me. Tonight, we're going to be... This is difficult, okay? it's difficult. I don't like to do this type of thing. You guys hopefully know that I don't love to just air interpersonal drama, conflicts among, people that I work with and friends and whatnot. Sometimes those things come to light that, I don't know, it just seems like they need to be aired out, publicly, and just exploited to hell and back. Okay. And this is one of those examples because I've found out some things about our co-host Morgan. You guys know Morgan. They believe in some weird stuff. They have some opinions, some takes on things that I just think are worth, taking out back and having a good talking to. I don't know, down out by the finishing tree. So we're going to bring Morgan on now. Hello, Morgan.
Hello.
So are you prepared for this?
I am. Do I need to be sworn in so I don't lie before the court?
Yeah. Do you swear to, FAP the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I got my hand on my Star Wars role-playing book. That's like my Bible. So I swear to FAP the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me, Zod.
Yeah. Okay. It's old Goatface. You should have been, swearing to old Goatface.
Look, I only swear to Terrence Stamp.
Fair enough.
I kneel before Zod.
All right. So here we go. All right. So yeah, this is an idea that we'd had a while back. I don't remember whose idea it was first, but everybody's against some things irrationally, and right?
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect around here.
Nobody.
But yeah, so some pretty egregious stuff here, though. I think you got to answer for it.
All right. Well, I will answer the charges, and I hope that the jury finds me not guilty of bad takes.
Okay, so I'm pulling open your file here.
All right.
We'll just go down the line because there's several entries here.
All right. I'm sure that's a long list.
Well, we're gonna start. We'll start a little bit, I guess, simple. Maybe work our way up.
All right.
Lasagna. Are you aware of any just kind of weird, irrational, opinions you have about lasagna?
I only have rational opinions of lasagna that I am aware of.
I see. Okay. So you're going to defend this.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So I have you on record as saying lasagna is both the worst pasta and the worst pizza.
That is correct.
Have you tried all the pastas?
I have tried several.
Mm-hmm. Several. That's not all of them, though, is it?
That's not all. That's true. That is not all of them. But of the pastas I have had, lasagna is far and away the worst.
Okay. What's your favorite pasta?
Like a vinegar pasta salad with like pepperoni and olives in it and some onions.
Okay. Well, here's where wow. I'm starting to see where the problems are. What the fuck is that you're talking about? Because that doesn't sound good.
Oh, it's delicious.
Well, but I don't think it sounds good.
Well, that's probably fair. If you like lasagna, there's a distinct possibility that the organization of our taste buds and how we perceive flavor in our brain is different between these two humans.
Wow, Mark. Wow. See, legendary hobbyist. He knows what's up. That's what's up. Yeah. Okay. So how is lasagna pizza though?
Okay. So have you had Chicago style pizza?
I have.
Okay. Lasagna is just that with noodles in the middle and a worse crust. Ricotta is a terrible cheese, and it is an affront to the state of Wisconsin.
You see, Bob has a episode 2 reference
Yeah, I
here.
see that. We've started this whole Star Wars thing.
Well, I mean, I would actually argue that what Anakin is expressing in that moment in the movie is also a forced adversity. It's sand is not that bad, dude. Like, calm the fuck down, you know?
Well, it depends. So sand is that bad if you've tried to have sex on the beach.
True. Yeah.
Then that would if he fell to the dark side because him and Padme tried to get it on in the Dune Sea. Well, there's your problem.
Yeah, he got it. He's all in his crack and stuff. I get it.
Right. Yeah, it gets up there. It doesn't. Yeah, it dries you out. It's itchy. Yeah, no, it's no fun.
Deep fried lasagna, huh? You know, I'm from the South. I would have thought I'd have that, but I have not had that. So, sounds interesting. Okay. All right. Well, lasagna. That's one thing. It's a pretty harmless take. It's like I said, starting easy.
Yeah.
They get worse. Like this. You guys don't even know where we're gonna go with this.
Oh, we're going. Yeah, it's I'm gonna get canceled by the end of this. Dane's gonna have to get a new co-host, get a new second, queer friend.
Who's to say that I don't already have you replaced, huh?
Oh, that's true. You might. They could be waiting in the wings, and I don't know because you're clever. I bet it's that Derek August guy you've talked about on your show before.
Well, from what I understand, he makes really good comic books. So
Y'all really bought that shit butt ass comic book. I'm crying.
Oh man.
Look, Mark, I am many things, but a Romulus stan is not one of them.
Yeah. Whoa. God damn, Mark. You can't just go accusing people of that. Wow.
In fact, I only like a whole 2 Romulans in Star Trek. And they treat them badly in a show we're going to talk about.
Accusing somebody of liking... I'm assuming you're talking about the character of Romulus in Wolverine lore. Because, wow, man, holy shit. That's calling somebody a groomer, basically.
I mean, and I've been called that, and I think I'm a little more offended by the Romulus thing. I'm not going to lie.
True. It's egregious.
It's pretty gross, man.
Rough. Well, so next up we would have well, here's one I agree with.
Okay.
Dr. Pepper is the best soda.
It's the best cola, yeah, 100%.
Oh, sorry, you're from Wisconsin. You're gonna call it cola. Okay.
Well, it's the best soda. It's soda. We call it soda here. But as far as Coke or Pepsi, if it's a place is Coke or Pepsi, and they have Dr. Pepper, the correct choice is always Dr. Pepper.
Who would choose Pepsi? I don't
know.
There are instances when I think Coke is better. It's one I'll choose in that certain moment. So
am I having it with rum or whiskey?
Sure, yeah, that's one. But also,
Dr. Pepper doesn't really go well with booze.
I would argue that fountain Coca-Cola, it can be better than fountain Dr. Pepper, if the mixture's right.
Yeah, I can see that. But if you're talking about a can or a bottle, I don't think that's a choice.
Let's see. Velveeta mac and cheese? Hells yeah. I mean, you know what? What's funny about
I hate mac and cheese too. That's a fun one.
Are you serious? And that's not even on the list?
It's not on the list. Yeah, I do not like mac and cheese. I am not a noodle person to begin with. Just on the whole, weird. Noodles not my thing. And because I helped raise my siblings, and my time and ability to cook was still in development. My time was finite and my ability to cook was still in development. I had to make a lot of mac and cheese. I just have no taste for mac and cheese.
Well, I eat probably at least twice a week. I'll eat mac and cheese. Well,
that's understandable. If I'm gonna make a noodle thing quick, it's gonna be ramen.
Okay. Finding out all these things about you, and I just am liking you less.
That's
Okay.
understandable. I don't even like me, so
Well, I mean, maybe if you'd had better takes on things, you wouldn't be so against yourself.
possibly.
Um, let's see. All right,
Sketchy.
so
I've got a story about ginger beer. Remind me to come back to that.
what do we got? Okay. Is it true that you said Game of Thrones was just okay, and the quality drop is overstated by people who couldn't figure out that the story had nowhere to go from jump?
Yeah, Game of Thrones is mid. Always has been.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It I was told, I was assured this was going to be the greatest thing TV could ever show me, and I ended up with HBO for a little while, and I'm like, okay, we'll put this on, and I immediately, I was just like, this is fine. Like, I'll watch it in the background while I'm doing other stuff and painting minis and stuff, but like, other than being perfect background noise to paint wood elves to for Warhammer, it was just kind of okay.
Huh.
I got a lot of wood elves done though, so like a whole big tree guy, had a whole autumn paint scheme.
See, I think you're just wrong again. I mean, so Game of Thrones is very, very good show. And here's where I'm almost like the opposite take is that the final season is not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. I think it's one of those things where some people just rather than have their own, perspective and opinion on it, they just kind of saw everybody else going, or a lot of people going,
oh
yeah,
for sure.
And they're like, oh yeah, it's terrible, it's bad, it sucks now. But
yeah, no, I don't think that like the last season was any worse than the one before that,
which was good, right?
It was fine. It existed.
Oh dear. All right. Well, okay. So
again, I don't hate Game of Thrones. I'm like, this is the worst fucking thing ever. I watched it, but just like in the background.
So Julia keeps mentioning Brett Keane, and this is the only one I'm going to highlight if you mentioned, because you're mentioning him a lot last time. Brett Keane. I kind of want to do an episode on Brett Keane where I go back and look and see if he's as awful as like the drunken peasants used to make him out to be.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, you don't know about him? Mancy? Okay. So you know who the drunken peasants are? Or well, they're not the same people anymore. It used to be TJ Kirk and his friend, Paul Zigo, and then TJ's brother, and then the other dude, and they were all the drunken peasants. They did podcasts. They got kind of wacky. So it was a little bit spicy sometimes.
Sure.
They chilled out, or at least got more progressive over time. But like, they used to go hard about this dude named Brett Keane, who was a YouTuber who it was really like, he's this like middle-aged dude who's like always laying down, and just like, I think he was like a liar or so. I don't really remember the details of why they would but I remember laughing a lot because he just, the way the jokes they would make were pretty good. And he was, but I in hindsight now, I'm like, was he really somebody awful or was it just like a lol cow that I fell for, and I would feel bad about it if I look back at it now?
Yeah, I mean, that might be a good FAP.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're probably not going to be doing it.
That's true. I'll be watching though.
Yeah. We're getting sidetracked. I know you're trying to get me. You're trying to get me sidetracked so that I don't move on. I
would never.
These next embarrassing entries.
Oh.
That you gave yourself.
Don't tease them.
All right, so
this is revenge for the bear sex thing, isn't it?
I still don't understand it. All right, so Game of Thrones, you said is it's actually pretty good. Gotcha. All right. Take it up a notch.
All right.
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Generally seen by many fans, many fans as the best of the original trilogy, and even the best of, and usually that's kind of carries through with the prequels and the sequels too.
Yeah.
I used to think that when I was younger, whenever I got into Star Wars as a teenager.
Sure.
I mean, I was into it as a kid, but then like I got into it whenever like the special editions and stuff came out.
Sure. It's a pretty common story.
And I was like, my friends thought I was weird because I thought I liked Return of the Jedi the most.
Yeah, it's a very good movie.
And in hindsight, I kind of do think that Empire's the best one. But
Yeah,
so do you,
it's true.
right?
I do think Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars.
Why?
Well, we'll get there. But I also want to say that it's only the best movie because of Return of the Jedi.
Wow. How does a movie that is not the same movie you're talking about make that movie seem better?
Well, when you're telling a story that ends on a cliffhanger, for that original thing to be as well received as history treats it now, the subsequent thing, the whatever pays off that cliffhanger, has to also like be good, right? Like the payoff has to be worth it. Otherwise, what was like, then you've just had a cliffhanger for nothing, right? Like,
Yeah. I can see that.
So I do think Empire is the best Star Wars. But I think if a movie of Empire's quality were part of a trilogy that ended on a dud made of other duds made of shit, then Empire would just be like this, coulda, woulda, shoulda, rather than it's the classic it is viewed as today.
I guess I kind of agree with that, honestly. Yeah, I mean, you might have won me on that one, but don't get used to it.
All right. Well, I've only got facts and logic here.
Isaac, if only this episode was about you. I'm seeing a pretty silly. I don't know if that's a troll or just really dumb comment up there earlier. If you're trolling,
Have
don't.
fun.
Try not to, because then I'll
Yeah.
kick you. Anyway, so what do we got next? Okay. So I just have here Thor 2.
Yes. So
Is
you have a take on Thor 2 that I'm gonna play my Uno reverse card.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your take on Thor 2 is wrong.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I think Thor 2 is a bad movie.
Okay. Well, I'll give my take.
All right, give your take on Thor 2.
My take on Thor 2 is, based on, it's a response to, it's a reactionary opinion, I suppose. It's a response to the general, common refrain of Thor: The Dark World being the worst MCU movie. Of course, I don't know that people would say that now. They might say something else like Eternals or something, which they'd be wrong about that. But, even so, Thor: The Dark World is not, it is definitely the worst Thor movie. It's definitely in the bottom rung of MCU films. But to say it's like a bad movie, I don't think is accurate, because I think that when people say that, they're typically comparing it to the rest of the MCU, which generally is, above average. At least I'll say that in regards to pre-Phase 4, whenever a lot of people seem to not like it so much anymore.
Right.
Pre-Phase 4, above average, pretty much almost every entry. So it's like graded on a curve, and it's just not true, because if you compare Thor: The Dark World to other science fiction / fantasy / action films of that year, it's kind of looks pretty good in comparison.
So I think there's my hang up, right? Is that compared to other movies that year, what I've got 2 points on that, but I want to hit on this one first. So we're going to circle back to point 2 in a minute. Point the first. Why does that matter? why, like, if that's just a bad year for science fiction action movies, then, right? Like, what makes that matter? Like, sure, then all the other sci-fi movies that year were kind of mid. Okay, sure, they're all bad movies. They're all mid. Whatever. We had a bad year. So what? It can still be a bad movie.
Sure.
But I will say in its defense, because I can talk out of both sides of my mouth.
That's a talent.
It is, isn't it? That Thor 2 got the negative reaction it did, not because of Thor 2, but because people were upset about Iron Man 3 because they came out the same year.
Okay.
That people were so upset with the Mandarin twist that they were just like preloaded, prepared to get upset about whatever the next MCU thing was, and they were ready to be critical of it in a way they hadn't been before. And so it got a negative reaction because people were primed to be critical of something because they were just off of one they didn't like.
I have another. I'll add to that. I think that part of what's wrong with Thor 2 is oddly something that's good about it. Something that's good about it being Loki, Tom Hiddleston.
Loki is the best part of that movie.
Right, but it makes it feel like the previous one and then the Avengers kind of didn't matter. Like the stakes are kind of lessened in a way.
Right.
Like you kind of feel deflated from those. Because it's like, oh, he's just here, no real consequences. He's kind of in trouble, I guess. But like
he springs himself he gets sprung from jail and just kind of hangs out and is like helpful, but then fakes his death. And he fakes his death because
that's what Loki do.
That's what you already know he's gonna do that. Like that's the setup.
I tell you what, though, in the theater, the one moment that I did have, I genuinely, this is a good moment, just a film, cinema moment. For a second, I bought their trick that they did, where Thor got his hand cut off or whatever.
Right.
I was like, holy shit! And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, nice.
The Loki thing, yeah.
It was a good Loki thing.
That's fair. Like there are good moments, and like the other MCU villains are characters with arcs, even if that arc ends in their death, right? Like, but they have like a personality.
Yes.
And
this is exactly what I meant.
Yeah, Malekith is just present.
He's and I don't
it's
think
a
anybody
waste
was
of
more
a very good actor.
Nobody was more upset about that than Eccleston was himself.
Right.
But like Daniels, this is the point that I should have made that I didn't say clearly. But like, yes, he was kind of like almost forced into the movie because it wasn't a movie about Loki at all. And it's like, well, but then that's the thing is you put Hiddleston in there and he's just kind of a third wheel. That third wheel is going to lead the way. It's just how it's going to go. And yeah,
especially when you have an actor who's such a charismatic villain, and then underuse a charismatic actor in Eccleston that like Loki's out of the movie by like 70 minutes, and then like, oh, we just get this growly elf for the rest of the movie. Got it. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. This. It's a lot of makeup on the guy. Not the only time you ever saw him really was whenever he's doing like bad guy plot shit.
Right.
And that's generally not a great way to go about showing a villain. You need to show a villain being kind of just a person, even if it's like a shitty person. I feel like, just kind of like some kind of resonance going on there.
Yeah. But he just has no one to interact with.
Yep. Well, there's what's his name? I can't say his name. From Lost.
Oh, I have no idea.
He played the mute guy, or he's silent for most of season 2 of Lost. Anyway, But he's all under makeup too. You can't tell who anybody is and stuff. So
Right.
nonetheless, all right.
Yeah,
So
I think that you have a Thor 2 is almost a disaster movie trying to be a superhero movie, trying to like shoehorn Loki back in because he's very popular. And it's not a movie. It's not like a contiguous movie. It's like 3 miniseries episodes jammed together by different creative teams. It's a mess.
and so I do remember watching it and thinking, I don't know how I feel about that. Whenever they first take a ship, and they're like, it's like clearly a sci-fi type of design.
Right.
Whereas like in the first one, they said basically it's this science fiction, but it's like magic because it looks like magic to you idiots. And that's not what it said, but that's the general
That's
vibe.
the implication, right? Yeah.
And then this one was just like the ship that they end up on, like literally has like some sci-fi-ish type of controls.
Oh yeah,
and
for
stuff.
sure.
And yeah, it's a little bit. It's weird. It's weird.
It didn't feel thought all the way through.
Yeah. But that said, how bold, I should say, maybe ballsy of the Russos, and I guess Feige as well, to like the Dark World played a significant role in Endgame.
Yeah. Well, I think that sort of redeem was. I don't like using that term. So that it creates an emotional touchstone we didn't get to see before at a time that matters for Thor as a character in the present, right? Like
True.
To have that scene with his mom that he didn't get at a time when he's sort of at his lowest. I will say my favorite scene in Thor the Dark World is when he puts the hammer on the coat rack and the coat rack holds up the hammer. Like it's like a 2-second scene and it's my favorite scene in that whole movie.
Well, I mean, it's worthy, I guess.
It's worthy. Yeah. The coat rack is worthy.
Now, what would you say to this, to this take?
Sure.
Thor's a homo.
I mean,
sorry.
Okay, like no, maybe he's bi, could be pan, but like we see him pining after some Natalie Portman, and I can respect that. But yeah, I don't think he's a homosexual. No.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's just some kid from Adventures in Babysitting's opinion. I don't know.
Okay.
You ever seen that movie?
Not once.
It was a big one for me when I was a kid. Because it's like Adventures in Babysitting. It's a very good movie. Actually, probably not in hindsight, but it's about some kids in Chicago or suburbs of Chicago. Their parents go out of town, or they go into Chicago to go to a party or whatever, fancy party.
Sure.
And they call the babysitter, and then the babysitter, while she's there with the kids, she's like 19 years old or so. Her friend is having trouble. She's in the city and she's having some problems, and she loses her glasses, can't see anything, blah blah. So she has to go get her friend, and she's not supposed to take the kids anywhere. She's definitely not supposed to take them into Chicago, but she does.
Okay.
And then they go there's an adventure.
Right.
Early Chris Columbus, yes. Chris Columbus. True. And so part of the thing is that the little girl character, and it's interesting and kind of cool that they chose, this is like 84, 5, 6, I don't know, that they chose for it to be a little girl character who is obsessed with Thor, the Marvel hero Thor.
Nice. That's cool.
And so she's like drawing him a lot and stuff like that. And she's
Fuck
got
yeah.
she's got a little hammer. She's got the helmet with the wings on it and stuff like that. Yeah. So, anyways, has nothing to do with anything, but you should check it out sometime if you ever want a cutesy 80s movie that's actually probably better than I'm thinking now that I know Chris Columbus directed it.
I will keep that in mind if it ever crosses my peripheral.
I don't know who Frank Garrett is.
I don't either.
And yeah, I mean, he's somebody that I will cover at some point. But yeah, you become a patron, you can demand that I do that.
That's true.
So what do we got here? Getting to the big one here in a minute.
Yeah, I can feel the noose tightening.
The tensions, it's getting thick.
I think it may be time.
Yeah, I'm thinking it is. Shit. All right. Well, look, Morgan, I appreciate the time that we did have together, being friends and co-hosts, and I know that after this, things won't be the same.
Nope. I
So,
have forced too much adversity on this
yeah,
podcast.
Let's go, motherfucker.
All right, let's fight.
So you did not like Picard season 3, episode 9. I believe it was called, the title of it was what? The Next Generation?
I think it's called, the title is Vox, I think.
Oh, okay. You did not like that, huh?
I'm going to go a step further. I think you're underselling it. I fucking hate that episode.
Wow.
I think it is possibly the worst episode of the modern Star Trek shows.
Yeah, I just couldn't disagree more. And I actually remember seeing your take for the first time in the Discord server, like maybe the next day or something. But like, so I watched it, and all that season I had been looking forward to, what was clearly going to happen, which was like they're going to get all of the old crew together. Spoilers for season 3 of Picard, by the way.
Right.
They're going to get all the old crew finally going to come together, which I thought
watch
they did.
The first 8 episodes,
and then the 9th one too. But like, it was pretty clear that they did a good job with making it story related, like why each character was kind of getting involved, and they didn't rush to put them all together either, which I thought was good.
They took their time.
And so the 9th episode is where that's the climax. That's as in like that's the money shot kind of thing. That's where they just explode all of the gooey goodness that you've been waiting for if you're the Next Generation fan. And they're in the old Enterprise. They're in it's all the main folks. They're saying the lines. Picard's saying the engage and all this stuff. And then they go and they save. I forget exactly what the plot was. I should have looked it up.
Well,
but,
it ends on a cliffhanger because they do the saving next episode. See, my hatred burns this episode into my brain. You see?
Okay. See, Mark, isn't this kind of like what you said?
So I will say that you may have seen me calling it that. I don't think that was the writer's intention. I don't think the thought even crossed their mind. And I think if you're someone like my dad, who is not engaged politically on any of this and likes new Star Trek because he's just removed from the online vomit space of it all, I think that thought would never occur to someone. But if you've, been online lately and see that kind of, and by lately I mean the last, at least the last 6 years, but the idea of like young people being susceptible to being propagandized and only old people know better. Like that's such a recurring complaint in conservative media that certainly Picard, that episode of Picard. So to spoil the episode, there is a moment where it is discovered that anyone under the age of 25 who's used a transporter is like a Borg sleeper agent ready to go off.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go off and kill a whole bunch of fucking people.
So it's literally the older generation having to
is
save the newer
It's
generation.
right. It is only, and not just like Seven or Raffi or Captain Shaw, who are older but not as old. It is the people who should be in their retirement.
Yeah. So
And so I don't think that, like, in the show's defense, I don't think that's the message they were trying to send or the allegory they were trying to make. But I think it looks an awful lot like that anyways.
okay, so this is where we actually get into the real core of this episode for
Right.
anybody that's wondering what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah, what is going on with these two weirdos? It's all been a ruse. You've been deceived.
It's just, it's just a little fun, but I mean, it's also it does have a point.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw that, and then I'm sure others did too. Just, some people.
Yeah,
I did not see that. I did not see that.
Most people did
at all. I had an experience much more like McLeod's, because I too used to watch it with my mother before she died. This like a very formative thing with me as a kid was, just the Next Generation and X-Men comics were like, that was my gateway into being a fucking nerd. And so they hit all the right notes, and I didn't feel like they did it in a way that was, super exploitative of nostalgia or whatever. And that, like, honestly, it was just nice to get Picard going out on a note that felt right as opposed to the previous season. And then, yeah, I don't think it was trying to do that message. I don't, I know you don't think that they were trying to either, but the point of this is, like, is Morgan's experience less valid?
Yep.
I mean, my impulse is to go, yes, it's bad, but, like, it's really not. It's not less valid. You guys know me. I'm, ambassadors and all that bullshit. Like, but I mean, I try to stay true to it because these things are subjective as fuck. And, like,
right.
we only bring, or what we get out of a show or a movie or music or anything is informed by what we bring into it.
Right.
So if that's been on your mind, if these are things that you've been thinking about or reading about, whatever, and you watch that episode, it totally makes sense.
Well, and I think to go into the sort of overall theme of the episode, which is subjectivity and not letting your differences of opinion make you a reactionary. And I will say I had a reaction to this episode because it starts and Deanna Troi, the former counselor of the Enterprise and a psychic, is gonna do some therapy with Jack because he's been having these weird dreams and he has these weird abilities and he wants to figure out what's going on with him. And so she does her psychic whammy and roots around in his brain and gets him to open up this door that's in his subconscious, and behind it's the Borg cube. It's like a vision of the Borg cube. And she's supposed to be a trained therapist. And she is a person that Jack has come to for help. And she runs the fuck out of the room in a panic. And immediately I'm like, that's like a shitty therapy horror story.
Well,
and I was just like, that just puts me on,
yeah,
just completely like, I get being scared, but, like, this young person has come to you for help and you don't tell them what's wrong. You panic and run and you put them under guard and the empathy dies. And I'm just like, that's really, even though I understand how she gets there, like, she's one of the heroes of this show. And she breaks, and then she runs and tells Picard, and then Picard is like, well, fucking put him under guard. And Picard has, like, almost gotten the Titan destroyed and everyone killed to try and save Jack. But suddenly, because he has some sort of tie to the Borg, he wants him under guard and on lockdown and doesn't want to talk to him. And it's just like, what the fuck?
Based smart people seek counseling from Guinan. Yep.
That's true.
She ain't
Or
scared,
Esri Dax.
True. Yeah.
Better show.
Also, actually, you know, but the thing is, though, Morgan, now everything you just said is null and void because now it has been declared as objectively good. And it's like a magic word. Once you say that, it just is.
Right. But what if I said it first?
You didn't, though, did you?
Well, what if I did? Right? Then does that make my take? Would that have made my take? Is there a parallel timeline in the multiverse where I said it was objectively good first? And then
Or
my
if
take is
you said it was objectively bad, that would have worked for you, I imagine.
I mean, I did.
No. That seems to be the way that it goes.
Oh, okay. So it's got to be.
That's how YouTube taught me these things go.
Okay, so if it's like quick draw, but with the word objectively, like
yes.
just old, it's trope slingers. We like a gunslinger, but for like shitty internet takes and memes and stuff.
Yep.
The trope slinger, like.
Yep. And we can get into a bit of the old details here. I do have a clip that I can play that's relevant to this while I go to the bathroom.
Sure.
And so this was it's a couple minutes, but it's a kind of impromptu debate that I ended up having with a guy who was dishonest about who he was. He's actually a pretty somewhat well-known Comicsgate guy. He's actually the guy who drew the Injustice comic book. So this is a debate I had with the guy who drew Injustice. But he didn't tell me that's who he was when he showed up. And this is kind of makes the point that I think is what we're talking about.
Do you like it when something just completely takes you out of the story? When you're so engrossed in this tale?
I can give you an example of an instance that is basically this. Dune, recent Dune film.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Agreed.
There's one moment where I was completely taken out. And like I had to kind of pause and go, kind of deal with my thoughts. And this is, a good example, I think, because it doesn't have anything to do with the social politics stuff that typically is being referenced here. But it still applies. So
not right now.
The scene with the Bene Gesserit old lady shows up with the box.
Mm-hmm.
And, he puts his hand in there and, he says,
"What's in the box?"
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
What's in the box? Oh, no.
I immediately was thinking about Seven. I was immediately thinking about the movie Seven, and I started laughing, and I'm like, fuck. Because other than that movie, I was completely immersed in it, like completely. There's very few films that I've had such an immersive experience with Dune.
Yeah.
And then I was removed from it. The only time in the whole movie was that. But the reason is because my experience of having seen Seven a bunch of times, of me and my friends used to go, "What's in the box?" Like we had repeated that. And that was my experience, subjectively. Now, if I'd never seen Seven, or if I saw it and didn't really remember that part or whatever, I would not have been taken out of the movie in that way. So my being, taken out of the immersion was completely rooted in my very specific experience of not even just seeing the movie, but me and my friends making that, quoting that line. Certain things stick out in different people's minds, and that's going to cause certain people to, take notice of something more than others or less than others or whatever.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you.
You can't disagree with me.
He can't, but I can.
Well, I'd like to hear you try.
We literally just did.
Oh.
For the last 45 minutes or so.
Oh, I meant on that point.
Oh, sure. Well, fine then. All right.
That's essentially it, right? Is like this is what has pissed me off about these fucking EFAP chuds and anybody that's just like any kind of like gatekeeping. That's not even just like the right does this. I've seen plenty of people doing it where it's like, oh, you like that? It's like, I don't know. I try my best not to. I have reactions sometimes, but I really try not to.
So there is to take it to like a different realm, an offline realm.
What?
Yeah, I know. There's this place I've heard it called meat space, wherein you the graphics are beautiful, the gameplay is shit, but there's some cool people there you can hang out with. But in that space is where I do my tabletop gaming, my role-playing games. I literally doing it earlier today. And one of the things older than time, and by time I mean whenever AD&D second edition came out, is the idea of the edition wars and like what the best and worst versions of like D&D or comparing D&D to other role-playing games. And everyone has their take as to why this edition is bad or this edition is good or your favorite games suck, we should play this. And it really just comes down to personal taste and or even just your level of nostalgia or familiarity with it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah. The Star Wars movies are a great example because
oh yes,
there are people who, it blows my mind, but there are people who legit think the prequels are the best movies.
They love the like. And when I was younger, like I knew someone who was in my role-playing group for a while who was like, oh yeah, the prequels are way better. I love them. You know, I grew up with them. And I'm just like, you're a space alien. Who are you?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, but like, you know, you got to respect that. You got to, or, you know, you just got to respect it because these are perspectives, man. And I think the reason that it's something that's kind of defined a bit of my experience since I started doing YouTube and really looking into different, you know, claims and anti-fandoms and stuff like that is that this idea of perspective and subjectivity have just been at the center of it all. Because it'd be one thing if it was just, you know, movie opinions or whatever. Like, okay, you think that's a good movie, I think you're stupid. But if our minds are in that mode when we're talking about movies and stuff like that, then what's to stop it from being in that mode when we're talking about people?
Exactly.
Other, you know, like you're trans. I think that's stupid. So, you know,
right. If you can get that worked up over the A-Force scene in Endgame, you can get worked up about women in your workplace. I got some bad news for you. If that gets you hackled to this day, where you need to write paragraphs on it on the internet or bitch about it in YouTube videos, you need to like do some self-reflection and go like, huh, what the fuck is going on with that? Like, I'm mad about a scene in a movie. You know, I you know, to be hyperbolic, I had to like work myself up to act angry about that episode of Picard that I genuinely don't like. I think it's a bad episode, but I don't hold any residual anger to it. And I think the show is overall pretty good. I love that middle, like episode 3 to episode 8. It's just, you know, there's some issues.
Like, and you know, I'm trying to tap back into how I felt whenever I read your take about it, like the day after the show.
Yeah.
And it was disappointment was what it was. It's, you know, just like this, because I know you love Star Trek. I have a few friends that I know like Star Trek, and I look forward to when something cool happens, having a moment of like, oh, did you see this thing? That was cool.
Right.
And, you know, and just to see have such a completely opposite experience reading what you thought of the thing compared to what I thought was going to happen, where we would be like, oh, it's so cool.
Right. And I was like, oh no, I didn't think this was cool at all. And like,
and so it was that. And it's like, that's, you know, if I wasn't mindful of that,
right,
what it was, then I might just go, oh, your fucking opinion's stupid. You suck.
So Colin, if you're in chat, let me know, because I want you to defend yourself. I'm going to give you a minute if you're here to speak up. Otherwise, I'm going to talk shit about you in front of everybody.
Do I need to instill a no chud rule during these episodes? Because that's not what this episode's about. I want you guys to engage with what we're talking about.
We're talking about like I guess there's a chud tangent.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, we're talking about, I was talking about Robert Meyer Burnett
Yeah, I forget who that is off the top of my head. There's so many shitty people in the world. I try to like save the name info, like the contact info, for people I care about and people I like. But if they're shitty, they can just go in the shitbag pile.
Yep. I mean, generally, that's it. Stupid people talk about people. Smart people talk about ideas. I don't know. There's
It's
some
true.
quote like that.
So, well, no, that's an interesting story. Is I have a friend who's more conservative, and he just started dating a gal lately, and she's more liberal than him.
Oh,
and I would say she's I'm going to use liberal derogatory here, because they got on the topic of the day, which of course, for the last while now has been trans rights and LGBT rights, and she's talking about all these well-known incidents of violence against transphobia. And there's one thing the right-wing media machine is really good at, and that is finding petty dumb shit to like shift the blame, like so that that person deserved it, or like it doesn't count, right, because XYZ.
yes, like that guy that got choked to death in the New York subway.
Right. And so when he was telling me about this, and I'm like, well, we don't even have to talk about those incidences. We can just talk statistics. We can just talk about the propensity for, trans violence or violence against trans people, about access to healthcare, about job security, about the rate of people who get fired when they come out as gay or trans or what have you. We can talk about all of those things, and none of these little things that you two were having, were concerned about matter. That all falls away. And I'm like, well, then where are you? Is this a problem? And he goes, yeah, it's kind of a problem. And so that is, talking about people versus ideas, is that when you make the conversation not about, well, the guy on the subway, was X, Y, or Z. It's like, well, no. Do we have a problem with vigilante justice in our system because we don't think that people have a right to life?
Right. Yes. It's this like one of the last kind of like, I guess you'd call it a bigotry that I worked through was about homeless people. Because like I just remember even once I was very much anti-racist and everything. It's like, but I would still get frustrated and think, man, and this is because like this is what my dad used to say and shit. It's like they probably made some choices that got them there, and even that's probably true. But does that
matter?
Negate their humanity or negate their fucking suffering? No, absolutely not. And like it's
What's funny is I'm kind of the opposite. We're like, because I spent some time homeless. That was kind of the first step.
Same.
That was like people just end up this way, and they can only do so much about it. And when you're in that position, it's so hard to dig your way out. You can't do it by yourself. The system is rigged against you. So many places need you to have a mailing address or be able to provide, if you want a job, how many places do you need to show a birth certificate to? How do you have access to that if you're houseless? Where is that?
There's compounding problems. The more you're disconnected from, regular society, so to speak. It just creates compounding issues.
And so for me, that was my sort of starting point on my journey leftward, was like, holy shit, the whole thing is set up to just fuck you.
Yep.
And to like fuck you down and down and down, harder and harder and harder.
Fucks you down. And another one with the homeless people too that like was I've heard people say, and I probably did at one point too, I don't want to give them money because they're just going to buy beer or drugs with it. Like, even if they do, Don't
Right.
they deserve to have a good night's sleep or whatever? Even if they're wanting to, get a little high or something, like, fuck, man, that's all they got in life. If
Right.
that's all they have access to, and they can reduce their suffering for just a little bit, fuck, but I mean, don't do it because I don't know. It's just, those types of excuses are bullshit. And it's
Right.
so easy for us to do them as people. But I did want to say, Julia, what is the name of the guy that got killed? Please don't let nobody else say. I want to know if Julie knows.
Okay. But yeah, so
I hope you know. Anyway.
Yeah, point is, to bring it back around to like talking about ideas and subjectivity and objectivity, that's hard to let go of, right? Like when it's personal to you, when something is important to you, if you tell someone that you don't like something, that's hard to hear, especially if there's someone you like and respect. I know, Dane, the whole conversation with Star Trek, you were like, oh, well, now I can't talk about this with Morgan because Morgan didn't like it. Well, we managed to talk about it. We've had a few good conversations on the subject.
It's,
I think
it's the way that I try. Like, I guess I don't know if this will help or not, but if anybody has any problems, like respecting someone else who has just like the opposite opinion on something as you, it's like, I just try to think of it like if I'm so deeply connected to this thing, or if I had such a positive experience to it, maybe the other person had that same kind of experience to something that they felt like this was a betrayal of, or so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like doing the content that I do, one of the most common things that I've gotten is just, Chuds thinking that like you just don't like different opinions. It's so fucking frustrating. It's so reductive to think that that's what it is. When it's really not that. Because no, I don't care if you don't like actually that debate that Dune thing was from me expressing on a stream that, my thoughts about how in the Avengers Endgame with the A-Force moment, right? And how that kind of took me out of it, because I was just like on a logical scale, not on a gendered thing, but like on a just like, wait a second, how did all of the women just happen to get to this one spot in the battlefield? Did they have like a pager or something? Like, and
yeah,
like, it doesn't matter, but
it's cringy and cheesy, but like that whole scene is like they show 10,000 people come out of those fucking portals. Like, how was any of the heroes in the same scene? Like, it's the whole thing is that setup. That's the point, right? Like,
true. Yep. Well, I mean, it's just like the other example that we talked about, because that's the thing. That guy showed up and wanted to wanted to challenge me on it because he thought that I was being untrue to myself whenever I was coming up with reasons after the fact why it's fine. Like, even if it did take me out of it because it was something I noticed, it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's bad that it's in the movie,
right.
Because there are definitely girls and women who watched that scene and it was probably one of their like, oh my God, we're finally represented in a, Avengers movie. And it's like, it's no different than the moment at the beginning of Age of Ultron, when the Avengers are all kicking ass and stuff.
Right.
And then there's that comic book panel shot where everything slows
Exactly.
down. And they're all lined up just perfectly in pose and everything. And it's like, that's fucking stupid too, on the same, like,
right. It's the same sort of comic book schlock, but that's what we're here for.
Right. We're here for the schlock, man. Yeah. Give it to me.
This is an Avengers movie.
Inject it straight into my veins.
What did you sign up for? Because
right. I did want to point out, by the way, real quick, that if you like Star Wars,
yeah,
and talking about it or hearing people talk about it, and you want to know what the initiative thinks about all the Star Wars is, well,
that's true. They have you guys got to think for that.
We did a goddamn tier list not long ago at some point.
Yeah.
And
it's wrong.
Oh, is it?
I pull it up. We'll talk about it.
Is it wrong?
We'll see.
Yeah. Figure out why it's not working first. Okay, I think that's it.
So my buddies and I have a joke that Deadpool is the 4th best Star Wars movie.
What?
Well, for no reason other than like just to like be stupid.
Okay. I don't get it. Is there
Yeah,
a joke?
there is no punchline. It is just like this complete inside joke that no, the 4th best Star Wars movie was Deadpool.
Okay. So here, what you're looking at here is a Patreon, and I've just in the last 20 hours, uploaded quite a few things. And by the way, you can follow me for free on Patreon now. It used to be only if you're paying. You can do it for free, and I'm making sure to give there's some stuff that I'm uploading is definitely only for the paid patrons, but I'm making sure to upload stuff that's for everybody too.
Yay!
But a lot of exclusive AF shit. So here's the Barbie stream that we did, I guess a couple weeks ago. The initiative. We got a nice comment here on the thing. You guys are grifters and character assassinate people for being conservative. You guys can't take criticism, and you guys shove your beliefs down people's throat. And you called Eric July a slur.
Okay.
So cool, man. You got all of them out there. All the things you've been told about us.
Story, bro. Tell it again. So I think I want to use that to touch on something before I let you show the thing I asked you to show.
Sure.
Because I think it ties into what we're talking about really well. I think there is a tendency for people to forget that opinions are
like assholes.
Like assholes, but also different than actions, right? So you can tell me if I tell you I don't like that episode of Picard, and you get disappointed. That's an understandable reaction, but like no one has acted on anything, right? Where if I told you I didn't like that episode of Picard, and so I sent mail bombs out.
Whoa. Well, then we're doing another episode on you.
Right, exactly. Then I'm gonna be my own episode. So people mistake their opinions and actions as the same thing. And so, especially when it's other people, like if I say I don't like something, I don't like sexists, right? And a sexist goes, well, we just have different opinions, but they're out there calling their coworkers bitches and grabbing asses and whatever. Not giving them promotions when they're in a position to give them equal pay, right? They're doing sexism. Like that isn't an opinion. That's an action. I don't like you because of a thing you did.
True. Yeah. It's like, and the way that plays into anti-fandom, because like if these guys just made the content and they, said the dumb things that I thought are dumb, like, okay, whatever, but I can't make you be a better person or have better opinions. But like, if then you go and you're, doing mass downvotes of videos or trailers because it's got a woman in it, or you're, review bombing movies, and you're going to other people's channels that have nothing to do with you except that they like a thing that you don't like, and then you start calling them names and shit like that. Yeah, that's exactly when your opinion becomes this action that you're doing against someone, and it's fucking weird, man. It's fucking weird.
Or I would say even making content, right? I think there's a difference between, for instance, if we make this episode and I bitch about Picard, and someone who has, I don't know, some toilet-faced person who has spent the last several years making content about how bad new Star Trek is, and making up rumors and repeating rumors that were intentionally seeded to get them outed as spreading bullshit. There's a difference between like one thing, right? I have an opinion. We talked about it on a show, and I have a channel and a financial investment in saying this shit. That's an action, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was trying to find my corresponding thing, and I
failed.
I failed. You know, I failed.
That's fine.
Of course, I failed.
The best Star Wars movie is whichever one is your favorite.
Yep.
And the worst Star Wars movie is The Rise of Skywalker. and that can be the worst one and the best one.
That is true. Yes.
But it is the worst one. That's my opinion.
And yeah, and it's my opinion too. And if you think it's like the best one, well,
pure cope.
Yeah. And that's like, you know, I joke about it, but I have no like strong emotions on that movie. What, 4 years later? Just like, yeah, that movie sucked. Anyways, what's for dinner? I'm really hungry for pretzels. I know it's a complete aside, but like I can really go for a nice like either like bag of pretzels or like a nice big soft pretzel with some mustard and cheese. That's completely
aside. So much for the tolerant left.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
I'm the intolerant left.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of tired today, I'll be honest.
We're doing some editing work, and you know, you need to put me on trial.
I'm right on the end of the you guys. It's going to be a big ass video. When it'll probably be, you know, it'll probably be up whenever you wake up in the morning. I would imagine. These pretzels are making me thirsty.
That was not the reaction I was going for, but I'm glad that I got it anyways, and I thank all of you for participating.
Trying to find a clip that I might can possibly show as like a teaser for this this whole, because it's a big one. It's like gonna be like an hour and a half or so, and it's, you know, it's Eric July stuff. It's like all the Eric July stuff that ever was.
Do you want to pull up Julia's most recent comment about Star Wars, and I can talk about that while you look for your thing?
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thank you. Hey, Julia. How's it going? So I learned this from my father. Just don't. Don't let them ruin it for you. Don't care what they have to say. My dad even likes the worst Star Wars movie. There is plenty of good Star Wars out there. Movies, games, books, comics, TV, otherwise. And there's also plenty of bad Star Wars. And I think one thing I learned as a Star Wars fan is the best way to enjoy it is to let the fandom menace be in their shitty bubble, because they're the fandom menace and they're shitty people who they're tourists. They don't really care about Star Wars. They care about their weird culture war bullshit. And will get into arguments just to advance that culture war agenda. They don't really care about Star Wars. They may have it, you know, when The Last Jedi came out, before they realized there was, you know, big money in pushing this bullshit. But now, like, I don't consider the fandom menace to be part of Star Wars culture or fandom. So I would say, you know, get out there and enjoy some Star Wars if you want to dip your toes into it. There's plenty of stuff out there. I can even recommend some if there's a flavor you like, but I would not let the fandom menace ruin Star Wars for you, because they want to ruin it for people like you and I. They don't want us to be seen enjoying Star Wars. They want us miserable, and the best thing we can do is enjoy stuff we want to enjoy.
Yes. And I've talked before about last year, toward the beginning of the year, whenever you guys, if you've been around, you might remember whenever I stopped talking about chuds for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did a couple of videos that I'm pretty proud of still, but you know, I was, you know, I tried to get out and they pulled me back in. But no, the reason that I quit was because up until that point, I'd been able to keep my own enjoyment of things separate.
Yeah.
But then I'd just been getting angrier and angrier at Chuds at that point, and you know, it definitely had other stuff going on that I wasn't processing well. But like, it started to bleed into my enjoyment of things because I would be watching something and like I'm thinking about what Chuds are going to say or what they're probably saying, and like, you know, and just it that sucks.
It
you know,
sucks,
it's like
yeah.
when they take your they may take your ability to engage in fandom with other people in certain spaces. Yes, and that sucks, and that's what we're fighting against partly. You know, but that's why you kind of just have to find a closed Discord server or whatever the hell, and with people that are, you know, they're not going to let anybody in there that's going to be piece of shit. But other than that, your own personal fandom, like your just relationship to a thing, don't let them take that from you.
Yeah. That.
Yeah.
Like, because my dad is center right, but pretty uninvolved in politics. And there's another guy I know who's sort of the same way, and they fucking love New Trek, and they're just completely unaware of all of this drama. They just not part of their media ecosystem, and they just
nice.
they enjoy it, and they have no idea that any of this, you know, shit's going on as far as Star Trek.
Most people don't.
You're right. Most people don't care. They, you know, if
like,
they're
even people that are online a lot of them, the most they'll experience is they'll come across some commenters or news thing every once in a while, and be like, oh god, because I'll see it. They'll be like, oh, Ethan Van Sciver's still around or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, unfortunately, but it's Mythic Quest, good show. Recommend.
I've never heard of it. What's it about?
It's about a team of MMORPG people making a game. They got a game called Mythic Quest. And they are it's got Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, except he's not Mac, he's a different guy.
Right.
And then, you know, other people. And it's pretty good. Cool. It's on Apple Plus, which, speaking of, Foundation is back.
Yeah.
Bitches.
It is. I actually just watched the first season like earlier this year. I hadn't seen it before.
You just like that?
I did. My spouse, there's it's a dinosaur docu-series, and it's got David Attenborough like doing David Attenborough things, but it's all like these recreations of the like dinosaurs and stuff. And so they wanted to get Apple TV for that. I'm like, well, while we've got it, you know, I want to watch Foundation because I've heard it's good, and yeah, it's pretty good. And I don't think I'm caught up with the second season all the way. I've seen the first couple. It's very good.
Yep.
Different from the books, but it kind of has to be because I think that the books are unadaptable.
Yeah, the way it's kind of, I think I haven't read them, but it's more like a kind of a history type of narrative, right? Like a
right. Well, it's that, and it is. Every book there's a time jump. Like every story is in a different, because it's all about these Selden crises.
Right.
And so like every book is dealing with, you know, what happens, what's the next crisis. Or like what goes wrong when like the prediction is wrong.
And it's hard to keep characters carried over from that type of thing. But,
the only character who carries over is Harry Selden, and it's only when his like hologram appears to go, and today's crisis is
yeah, it's really good show. If you're into science fiction,
it's a very good sci-fi show.
It's got its own vibe to it, which as a sci-fi head, I love when sci-fi is able to hit a note that's not super familiar to, like, it's not reminding me of another sci-fi thing, really. I
think that's why I like Stargate, is like, I don't think Stargate's as good as like Trek or Star Wars, but like it's such a different show that it's refreshing.
If I would have watched it when it was airing, I probably would have liked it, but I've tried to watch it since, you know, it's been gone for a while since
it's been
aired.
Gone for over a decade now.
It's what I imagine it would be like for somebody to watch like The Next Generation for the first time as an adult.
Actually, the barista at the coffee place we go to just got into Star Trek last year and was like, because she heard my spouse and I talking about it when we were in there. It was like, oh, you watch Star Trek? And I'm like, yeah, you know, and, oh, I just, you know, I started this and I watched that. And you know, like ask for my opinions on things, and like, okay, well, you know, waiting for Voyager. Like the most recently, she's been watching Voyager, and so it was like waiting for Voyager to get good. Like she just finally got to the point where they introduced Seven.
So I still haven't actually watched Voyager all the way through, or Enterprise. I'm a terrible Star Trek fan.
Nah, it's fine. No, so here's a fun. We were having this discussion about gatekeeping in our Pathfinder group a while ago. I have a take that, you know, probably I should be on trial for.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can be a Star Wars fan and have no idea who Darth Vader is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Because I've said it before, you know, the example I give is Spider-Man, because there are some hardcore-ass Spider-Man fans, which, by the way, I think maybe Wednesday on the initiative, we're maybe going to talk about this Spider-Man Lotus situation. I think that,
yeah, I've seen some things about that, and they're a little...
There's some history with it. There's things going on. But also, and I don't know if Bob's agreed or not, but I did also pitch that we talk about libertarian superheroes. So that ought to be fun.
That'll be interesting. I look forward to that.
It's because I've been editing this Eric July thing, and it's like
that'll do it.
Anyway, so what the fuck was I saying?
I don't know.
Oh, yep, I lost it. Anyway,
okay.
So, I was going to respond to some comments for sure. So yes, Michael, that is crap. That sucks, and I hate it. That's why, like, I wouldn't, you know, like, I don't generally talk about the fact that I think that Captain Marvel isn't like a great Marvel movie. You know, like, and I'll give all kinds of nuanced reasons why that, you know, like if it came out earlier in the MCU, I would like it better. But because it's kind of just doing stuff in a lot of ways that's been done, and we've moved past that stage of film at the point in the MCU that came out, that I was just like, it kind of feels like we're, I mean, literally going backward a bit.
Right.
And then, you know, and I will also say that it has nothing to do with Brie Larson. It has nothing to do with, you know, feminism or whatever the fuck. But like, I just have always been worried about some chud hearing me say, yeah, I don't really like Captain Marvel. And then I can just imagine them going, oh, even actual fandom doesn't like Captain Marvel.
Right. That said, so Brie Larson's apparently a huge Star Wars fan. Get her in a Star War.
I think that's just, it seems so obvious. But I mean, it really depends on if she wants to go through that all over again.
That's true.
Because here's a little tidbit. It seems like they're not, so far, able to get any traction on the Marvels yet.
No, they really haven't.
Which one of the videos that I uploaded to Patreon is actually where we watched them pre-acting, as I called it, pre-acting to the Marvels. It was a Drinker, it was a Mauler, it was Razor Fist, you know, and they're pre-acting. So they're just like, it's just so stupid and so obvious that like you're gonna have an hour-long conversation about why this sucks months before the fucking thing comes out. Anyway. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, pretty bad. Isn't it so crazy to think about Steve Ditko being a libertarian ass dude, co-creating Spider-Man, who is like the most just helping people out and feeling responsible for other people, motherfucker, there is. Like, just you almost couldn't get.
How did that happen? Right? What?
I don't know. You know,
you know what? The guy who wrote Dark Knight Strikes Again wrote Dark Knight Returns. So people go places in their lives.
That's true. You know, one day, this probably isn't a FAP episode, but one day I do want to explore the fucking wild-ass career of David S. Goyer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that guy's had just, like, some of the worst and some of the best.
Yeah. Like,
there's almost no middle ground.
It's either all killer or all just garbage.
Like I think he did like the Ghost Rider movie, the first one or whatever, like that or something. But and he also, and then but then he also wrote like the Dark Knight.
Right.
Yeah.
He wrote for the Blade movies.
Yeah, Ditko was a dickhead. It's like you take him and you take Jack Kirby, and you couldn't get more opposite. Like everything you learn about Jack Kirby's like, God damn, he was awesome.
Right. Every time I learn something new about Jack Kirby, I'm like, fuck, that guy rocks.
So let's see what we got here. We're about to call it. I did want to show this little clip of Shark 303. Anybody know that guy?
No, I have no idea who that is.
Okay. Well, he raised a question about why young Ripa might dislike Miles Morales so much, and I just want to pitch it to the audience here and get some feedback.
Okay, sure, hit it.
Spite tokenization, tokenized Spider-Man. Holy shit, he hates Miles. What the fuck? Why is he so bitter about Miles? Holy shit. Did Miles come in his wife or something? What happened?
Amazing.
Oh
Amazing.
my god. Okay, so here's Sophie's choice for you. Who would you rather be? Eric July's wife or Ben Shapiro's wife?
Oh, wow. Wow. I don't know. I guess the suicide pill?
Whichever one can afford the better divorce attorney.
Yeah, see, Blackwing, this is actually this ties into the episode that we're doing because when my friend Questing Refuge, Willow, and I, a couple of years ago now, it's crazy. We worked on 2 videos together. Like, we co-wrote and co-worked on a video on each of our channels about Spider-Man.
I have rewatched those videos several times. I fucking love them.
Wow. I pretty proud. I definitely over-edited. That was kind of behind the scenes of that video that was me coming out of my depression. That was the first video I'd done that wasn't just like kind of bare bones, I got to put out a video, try and make one, cobble something together. That was like me coming out of my deep depression after I'd had transcranial magnetic stimulation and stuff. And I was balls deep, so to speak. And I over edited the shit out of it. I think I was overcompensating a bit, but still, I do like it. I think that we did a great job. And that was the reason I think they're so good is because we spent months just talking about Spider-Man
right
before we ever really started working on him. We knew that we wanted to do something on Spider-Man, but it was just so much back and forth, and we were using Slack at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a lot of really good conversations. Anyway, we did those, and in the process, because Willow's not a comic book, wasn't a reader. They've read a few since then, but they don't have the same experience with Peter Parker or Spider-Man that I do, where he, and so they had their love of Spider-Man really was triggered with Into the Spider-Verse. So,
I mean, can you blame
no,
them?
Can't blame them at all. And it's a great movie, and I love Miles as well. But just when they first said that they like Miles better, my brain struggled.
Your brain exploded. Yeah.
How can you even, and it's I got there, and I'm like, okay, yes, I get it. I get that. But just to me, it was a concept that was foreign when it first said it.
Oh, yeah.
How can you possibly like Miles more than Peter?
Do you know what got that reaction from someone when I was talking about Spider-Man with them at the comic shop? That I liked Superior Spider-Man. That I thought that was a cool take on Doc Ock and Spider-Man.
It's a cool story.
And they were just besides themselves, I had killed their kid, and I'm just I'm sorry.
You know what I think?
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I actually have a clip I can show if we want to. I don't know, but
sure.
I explained it to it's kind of about anti-fandom, but I think this also applies to this outside of anti-fandom. But in some ways, I think part of it, at least when it's done on performatively online, when people do that kind of gatekeeping stuff or whatever, it's there's a social power aspect to it.
That's what it is, right? It's all about the social power.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier about Game of Thrones, and most people probably watch something and they may not love it, but they don't have a very strong negative reaction to it too. But then, you know, I don't want to say most people, some people, this definitely happens. I don't know to what degree, but then they see other people having strong negative reactions to it, and it's like, well, I didn't love it, so I guess kind of I'll just jump in with that,
right?
And I'm saying this negative thing too.
Well, it's like when I was saying that, you know, I think that Game of Thrones was mid, like that's throughout. So it's like, oh yeah, so you just thought the ending was bad too. I'm like, well, sure, but it's fine. I don't hate it. It's just it happened. It was there. It's okay.
Frank Miller does have some weird politics. You guys know that Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the first thing I ever put out publicly about fandom stuff or at all, or related to it, was an open letter to Frank Miller.
Wow.
And it was on a website, you know, comic book website where you could just kind of post your own article, and it worked kind of like Reddit. If it got enough votes, they put it on the front page of the website.
Nice.
And I was just so compelled to respond to the shit he said about Occupy Wall Street.
Right.
This is in 2011, I think, and 2012, and I was just fucking pissed because, like, what a bad faith shithead he was being. And I think he's apologized for it since then.
Really? Wow. Well, good for him. He's kind of fallen off the radar. What's he been up to? I'm curious.
Hopefully something better than Holy Terror.
Oh, we don't talk about Holy Terror.
Yeah. Anyways. Trying to think of what I got here. Is there anything you wanted to talk about before we get on out of here?
No, I think we've covered it. Like, I think the moral of the story here is don't let it's okay to have your opinion and your take, but just sort of understand where you are in the world. And I have a thing I want to talk about gatekeepers too. That, like, it's okay to like a thing or love a thing or not like a thing or fucking hate a thing, but, like, you can't let it drive the decisions in the rest of your life. Like, you have to be able to compartmentalize it a little bit. That, like, it's just another thing about you, right? Like, it's not the central core of your life is, like, if not just that you love Star Wars, but that if someone doesn't love Star Wars the same as you, then they're morally repugnant. That just opens yourself up to sort of see anything as morally repugnant and be led down that
like
road.
What are your fucking standards at that point for your morals, right?
Right.
And also, just like on a I guess more superficial level, shit is boring, dude. Like,
yeah,
it is so boring to have to disagree with somebody and then just leave it at that.
Right.
No, you fucking practice your ability to disagree with someone and then engage with them in a friendly, good faith, productive conversation about the differences in your opinion.
Like
that's
this.
where, you know, that's Chad shit right there.
That is absolutely Chad shit. So, and most importantly, don't be a gatekeeper. And I figured out what gatekeepers are the other day because I was talking with some anime gatekeepers and I figured it out. You know what gatekeepers are? They're the soccer moms of fandom.
Oh.
They don't really know about how soccer is played or the rules or why the rules are the way they are or, like, why soccer culture is the way it is. But they have their special little boy, and they want their special little boy to not just win, but, like, be the star.
That is just accurate, I think.
And they create this whole fiction around that has to be true for their life to make sense because they've put all of their emotional energy into, like, a soccer mom, right? Like, this is their child, but the difference is, like, a soccer mom has a child and an emotional bond to a child that, while unhealthy, makes some sense. This is that, but with a cartoon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will 2 votes Blackwing Gaming on Yu-Gi-Oh! And its shit ton of gatekeeping as someone who enjoys the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game and knows nothing about the anime. And just, any TCG space is queerphobic as fuck in a lot of places. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I don't play Magic anymore.
Man, I'm actually realizing now that I have like several clips that would be good for this topic, and maybe that's just because this is basically at the core of everything that I talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one that's it's a minute and so long. I was gonna show it at the end, but then I forgot the other thing I said I was gonna show at the end. Remember? So
right.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I think like it's okay is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter if you feel like you have had a ghetto understanding of writing. Like I just told that guy, it doesn't really matter. How do you experience stories? That's what matters. And anybody trying to, say otherwise and speak. By the way, I am a writer. I could defend some very specific things as being like, this is how you could write a good story. And it's like, and I do have ideas for what I feel that is, but that really is gatekeeping in a way, because ultimately you're implicitly saying that somebody who does enjoy this thing that isn't what you call good writing, that somehow they're wrong, they're bad, they have bad taste, they don't do it right, they're not watching stuff right or whatever. The only rational thing to do is to accept that this stuff is subjective. Everybody experiences it, in slightly different ways to varying degrees, and to respect that, man. Respect each other's lived experience, respect each other's perspectives, even be willing to listen to, be receptive to someone's perspective. Doesn't mean you need to change yours, but it is an experience you can have as a human being, and we only have a finite amount of time on this planet to do those experiences.
Beautiful.
So yeah, and that's like we do. Like, why would you spend? The saddest part about chuds, like if they weren't so just frustrating and harmful, I would just feel sad for them all the time. And sometimes I'm able to kind of allow myself that for just a minute, but then it goes away.
I think that's sort of my default state, is just like pity, right? Like it's just you're fucked up in the head and I feel bad for you. I still have to like combat your bullshit to some degree.
Yep.
But like
it's like Old Yeller,
right? Like I feel bad for you, but I can't just let you do that.
Right. You were
and I had to do that in person when we saw Indiana Jones recently. Someone went and saw with it, was like talking about how this was the last movie Kathleen Kennedy was going to produce, and I'm like, where did you hear that? And he sort of like, so I saw it online, and I'm like,
oh,
again? And I'm like, there's sites saying she's been fired, every month for the last 10 years or whatever at this point, like since, if not Force Awakens, then Last Jedi. So like, I mean, yeah, at some point she's a woman in her 60s. She's going to retire because they want to see her grandkids or something, but like, she's not going to get fired.
Yeah, it's so weird to think that like you have to be in this information silo to get to the point where you think that Kathleen Kennedy's career is defined strictly by a couple of Star Wars movies you don't like, and then like Indiana Jones or whatever.
Right. And like, I don't even think this person is necessarily in those silos completely, but just sort of on the edge where he's exposed to it, right? So like he sees it, it sticks in his head because he's on Facebook or whatever, and isn't really even engaged with the whole culture war broadly, because talking to the guy, he doesn't seem like that sort of guy. And if he was, it would be weird that he's fine with me in public and not like recoiling every time we talk. But just that, like, that's what he's seen because the algorithm likes to present that.
That's really cool, Michael.
That is fucking awesome.
Glad to hear that, because
that warms my heart, dude.
With all the nonsense, it's actually kind of surprising that nobody's gotten to it and done something. But
yeah, like I will say, I don't want to besmirch the good name of the greater Magic community, because I know there's a lot of good people online and in meat space, but just the the people I played Magic with when I was starting to have a better understanding of who I was were very homophobic. And I've since had a falling out with them. And that leads into a funny story wherein last year I saw them at the game store. They came into the store where I run Pathfinder. And one of them I still keep in touch with, and the other two I don't care to, but I don't really have any like ill will towards them. They're not a part of my life anymore. But through this whole Fallout thing, it must have stuck with them because they saw me and they jumped for cover behind one of the display shelves and like rattled it, and a bunch of card sleeves fell off of it and stuff. And like they totally made a scene just because they saw me in a game store. So yeah, just, I don't want my bad experience. If you're out there and interested in Magic, there's probably a good community out there for you. But I've just had some bad experiences personally, and fuck it, I can do this instead.
Yeah. Look, like I said in that one clip, we really do have like not just we don't have forever in this place,
we don't,
on this fucking rock. And there are a lot of shitty things in life that are going to happen no matter what you do about it.
Right.
There's nothing you can do to stop those shitty things that are going to happen. Why would you choose to focus on being upset and angry or whatever the thing when it's like, go to do another thing? It also
thing. Yeah.
The kind of mentality of like, this ruins this franchise or whatever. No, it's like, okay, you don't like these movies or whatever. Like, you can still watch the ones you do like. Right. Like it's this weird, just kind of, I don't know. It's got to be emotional intelligence, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
it's something like
I did
that.
want to say this episode is brought to you by Cheddar Goblin.
Who ate all the macaroni and cheese? Look, Cheddar Goblin.
What the fuck?
Cheddar Goblin, did you eat all the macaroni and cheese?
Nothing's better than cheddar.
Cheddar Goblin.
What the fuck?
Cheddar Goblin! Cheddar Goblin! Cheddar Goblin!
Oh my god, what the actual fuck?
Cheddar Goblin by Dane has 60% more cheese than the next leading brand. Kids and goblins agree, Cheddar Goblin tastes the best. That's why Cheddar Goblin was rated #1 3 years in a row. Cheddar
Oh God, I love your reaction to that.
That was. What is that from?
So it's from a movie called Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage. It's a very good movie. It's very intense movie.
It seems like it.
I mean, that's actually the comedic relief moment of the movie. It is so random, and it's like, so it has nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. It's literally just a commercial that Nick Cage's character, when he's about to go on a murder spree of some guys that have kidnapped his wife,
like you do.
Yes, you do. And he's like, they're these basically crazy, drugged up mutant people that he's dealing with, and they have some kind of like mega powerful, more like basically some kind of hallucinogen that when you take it, you basically just trip forever. It just like sets your brain off on a fucking crazy trip for the rest of your life. And he actually gets some in his mouth, or he ends up on it for a little bit. So like he's fucking crazy. He's going out of his mind, but he's still going to try and go get his wife. And in that moment of like preparing and stuff, he just stops and the TV's on, and that commercial is playing.
Wow.
And then it goes, yeah, I don't know. If you're into crazy shit, what have you guys not heard? Come on now, you hadn't heard of Mandy?
I have not. No.
I mean, you don't like horror. It is horror-ish for sure. There's horror vibes to it.
And it's from that era of movies that like it's even possible that I have seen it and just don't remember it.
No, it's from I think 2017.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, so not too long ago.
Not too long ago. Wow, then I've just never heard of it.
Yeah. It's pretty intense. It's from this current Cage Renaissance.
The Cage
been
Renaissance?
happening. Yeah, exactly. Bruce Wayne's bad dad from Batman.
Oh my god.
He's a cult leader who's like he used to be a aspiring kind of like a hippie songwriter, folk singer, but he clearly didn't do too well, and so he's just become this cult leader instead, and he like makes people watch as he like dances and sings his music naked with his wiener out and stuff. It's weird. Yes, Panos Cosmatos, the director. Very good.
I've learned all sorts of new things today.
Anyway, Cheddar Goblin, fucking funny. I love it. That's about all we got.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
out.
a nice,
out
fun
of
one, nice, easy one. Get it out under 2 hours so you can get back to editing, and I can enjoy my weekend a little bit.
Well, and also we're gonna do it again in October.
Yep, we're gonna do this in October, where I put Dane on trial, make Dane swear on
and
Powers of X.
What now?
Well, I had to swear on him. Yeah,
okay,
swear
gotcha.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, if you know of anything that you think I'm against irrationally or anything like that, start thinking of it. I'll start thinking about bad takes too.
Yeah, if there's a take you've seen Dane make, feel free to send it to me, or send it to Dane for me to use against him in a court of law.
Yeah. In a court of FAP.
A court of FAP.
Okay, well, actually, I need to load up the old clip here in a second.
We should figure out what we're doing for next week too. Give the audience a tease.
What are the options?
Well, if Ryan's available, we could do our Marvel chat finally, which would be nice. If Ryan isn't available, we could do a silly show and talk about sort of a cute follow-up to our ESRB discussion and talk about people freaking out about romance in video games and bear sex.
Okay. Yeah, I got to know what that is.
Dane is chomping at the bit to learn about bear sex.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because I did Google it, and I'm just like, I'm not sure I found what you're talking about.
Okay. If you Google bear sex, you're going to probably get some interesting results.
Interesting, to say the least, yes.
Interesting. So the other thing I have for this month is something way less topical. And that is one of the test cases that when they came up with the word genocide, when like they were discussing what's a genocide, this is one of the things that they used as a case study. And this is the Cathars and the Christian suppression or the Catholic suppression of the Cathars, which were a religious movement in like the 13th century.
Okay. Interesting.
So one of the like OG moral panics that is well documented. And there's an interesting conversation to be had about the documentation too, but we'll get there when we get there.
By the way, should we do like Salem witch trials or something for Halloween?
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, we need to do Salem witch trials in October, 100%.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll pull up the Discord and start doing the thing.
Do the thing.
That's the wrong Discord. All right.
Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, chat's awesome.
Love this stream where I didn't have to do like a whole lot of prep and got to kind of pretend like I was mad at Morgan for a minute.
It was kind of fun.
But yeah, guys, thank you. Please subscribe if you're not. Hit the old like button. And by the way, most of the time, yeah, these streams are going to be up for a little while once they're done. But at a certain point, probably before I go to bed, it will become a Patreon exclusive. And that is for a couple of reasons. Mainly just because I'm seeing how my stats are affected by people that they're not watching full streams. And I'm not like trying to complain. I understand I don't have time to watch full streams most of the time. But yeah, it gets to be a thing. And yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah, get some rest, man. You've been working a bunch.
Cathar sounds like space aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funnily enough, today there is a species of cat people in Star Wars called the Cathars, which are completely unrelated.
Crazy. All right. Yeah. So thank you, Morgan. Thank you, all you people.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, share. Like on follow on Patreon. Chip a buck Dane on Patreon if you can.
Yeah, at least follow me for free over there, because that's where the cool stuff happens, like content related conversations. That's where I'm posting. You'll see some free videos that you can only watch there now and then. You'll also see me asking questions for feedback and shit like that. Then also Wednesday, the initiative. I'm not sure if Turf is back yet, but pretty sure me and Bob are going to be doing it. And probably, Charles might show up, and DJ usually does, and who knows what kind of craziness we'll get into.
So you guys are all going to do it on YouTube?
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting lead-in if we talk about bear sex.
Yeah. And then so here's just a palate cleanser, something. It's kind of nice.
We're nice, cool,
If you watch
who's the heroes and villains today? Who's our heroes and villains?
Heroes and villains.
You gotta do that, yeah.
Heroes are anyone who basically understands that opinions about movies and shit are just opinions about movies and shit, and that they're not like attaching it to how someone's worth, value as a human, and treating them some kind of way.
Yeah,
that's a hero to me in this context. Who's a villain?
A villain is going to be Cheese Goblin.
Cheddar Goblin. Get it
Cheddar
right.
Goblin. Yeah. Fuck that guy.
What do you mean a villain? He was giving them lots of macaroni and cheese.
And we just talked about earlier how I don't like mac and cheese.
Oh, right. Okay. Fair enough. I was going to say,
close the circle.
He's Empty Mitch. What's up, man? I need to watch your new video, dude.
Just in time for us to leave. Sorry.
Well, who's a freaking hero is Empty Mitch. Because I heard the third video is also a banger, but I know that the first two you did, man, just like right out of the gate, holy shit, strong videos.
I'll check them out.
Especially his drinker one. But I mean, the other one's good too. I just didn't know. I don't know who the guy is other than watching that video that he made about him, but he seems like a real piece of crap. Anyway,
so yeah, check out Empty Mitch. Check out Nothing But Media as well if you get the chance here on the YouTube.
Yeah.
Got to shout out Ryan. Ryan's
and actually,
stuff.
If you click on the link tree thing in the description, there's so many links for you there. There's so many links. You can link them all and sell them all, and it'd be so good for you. Anyway,
good for your soul.
Presenting the birthday boy.
Yeah.